The protagonist of High Finance is a man named Jed Chinkaska. And maybe the difficulty of pronouncing his name is just an underlining of the extent to which he's an outsider. He comes to Wall Street in 77, uh, and he's Jewish. He's not finding it easy to get into the Gentile investment banks, but he finally lands a job at Lehman. And from the very beginning, he knows, and the reader knows, that his plan is to own as much of Lehman Brothers as he can. Of course, all of us know, and if you didn't know, you'd know from the epigraph, that Lehman had a huge failure in 2008, namely a bankruptcy. So you're watching this guy who's quite unlikable. He cheats on his wife. He trades on inside information. He smokes dope and goes on Stolichnaya binges. And he has a huge Jones for Lehman stock. So you finally watch him borrow $100 million. And the trick in the writing was to help the reader care enough about this complex individual so that when he predictably was wiped out, how would he handle it? If you don't care about the guy, he's just another victim of the 2008 debacle. But arguably, he was a serious player at the highest echelons of Wall Street, and Wall Street has taken, rightly, although I'd say it more heavily belongs on the capitalist system itself, the blame for the 2008 financial disaster. Well, this is not a novel. It's heavy on the interiority of the main character. You just kind of see what he does, and you draw conclusions about his character from his actions and words. He's, as I said, not an admirable character. He comes to Wall Street with the purpose of getting rich. And for most of the novel, he's getting richer and richer and richer. In fact, if you look at the cover of the book, you'll see, I don't know if you can see this, but you can see the stock chart where it goes from very high to very low really fast. And so given that he's borrowed, so anyway, he comes to Wall Street, can't get enough Lehman stock, and he's extremely numerate. He's really great with numbers, quickly becomes the head of what is called the structured finance department, where his ninjas operate at the place where regulatory and other attempts to control the system meet, and he kind of works his way around it. And so you meet him in that chapter. In the next chapter, you see him from the angle of his Marxist brother, who grew up with him, and you get a sense of his family life and how what you've learned already about him came about. And then you get the perspective of his British secretary, who at first is highly uncritical of him and then begins to see his flaws. And through her eyes, you learn some more about the Wall Street culture and so forth. You see one of his clients, how he relates to that guy. This internal auditor is constantly trying to bust him for what he knows is going on, but can't do it. And then you see one of the toughest chapters for me to write as a white man is called The Informant, where the black shoeshine person from Lehman Brothers actually gets the best of the protagonist. And then finally, when the shit finally hits the fan and the market cracks, the chapter called The Fall shows you how he realizes that he's got to give up his 7-bedroom duplex on Park Avenue and move to a small, cheap rental in Patchogue. And only in the penultimate chapter do you hear from the wife, the long-suffering Amanda, and you hear her perspective. And then finally in the last chapter called The Cope, you get your last window into who this Jed Chinkaska is. And and what his possibilities are. I mean, I can read my own work and break out in laughter because it is a send up of some of the absurdities of Wall Street. Don't believe that novels and fiction should be overtly didactic, but I hope that the reader will get a lot of yucks and learn a bit about this amazing culture. Jed touches on some of the remarks you just made when he regrets not only losing his money but being seen as a bankster, somebody who participated in a fraud, when in fact he said he just didn't see himself that way.